Alright, today I'm going to give a review for the Allies expansion to the Dominion board game. How these reviews work is we can go over some of the things that the expansion either introduces or emphasizes, a couple of the components that can make or break expansion, extremes with strength, high end, low end, what's great about the expansion fun-wise and maybe what's not so great, and then a couple of fluff pieces. But for each of these things, we're going to give an American letter grade to them, and at the end, average them all out, weighted to make it so that we have a number to represent the expansion. So, some context for Allies is the 14th expansion for Dominion, falling between Menagerie and Plunder. It was released in March of 2022. All the playtesting was done throughout 2020-2021 at the height of the COVID pandemic. It was almost entirely online. Allies is bringing you 31 new kingdom cards, and along with those 31 kingdom cards, 23 allies. That's a landscape that we'll get to. A favor mat and coin tokens to go on the favor mat to represent favors. Allies are a new thing, and they come along with these things called liaisons. There are split piles in allies, which there are split piles in empires, but the ones in allies rotate, so maybe a little bit different there. And then there's a returning emphasis that, like Intrigue, Allies puts an emphasis on choices. So take a look at some of these mechanics, starting with the big new one, Allies and their liaisons. So what happens is that there's these cards called liaisons. They say something that adds favors to the game, so like +1 favor, maybe set up each other player gets +4 favors, different ways to gain favors. And when you have one of these in the game, you also take one of these things called an ally, which is a landscape, and these tell you what favors do. So, maybe favors are going to be such that at the start of your turn you can discard a favor to get a new hand and repeat that as desire. Or maybe it's going to be a little bit more expensive. You have to spend 2 favors for a more favorable effect, or 5 favors for a really favorable effect. Extra turns, that's a biggie. Or maybe you get something from accumulating favors. Like if you have 5 or more favors, liaisons will do something different, or 10 or more, they'll do something even more different. So, there's different ways to go about this. You always start with 1 favor. So, these ones that cost 1, you'll get to maybe do, and otherwise you need to, unless there's importer and you're starting with 5 because each other player gets, or each player gets +4 favors. You're going to need to accumulate them through getting this liaison. So basically, you can almost think of this as a different currency. It's like completely separate from everything else, and you need to get the liaison, whether it's going to be an on gain, some conditional stuff, whatever, in order to get these great effects. Like if there's extra turns, gosh, you sure want extra turns. So sometimes you're going to really emphasize that. Some things like, maybe you're okay with not top decking stuff, so maybe you'll make a decision not to go after this. But either way, like, you have to make this evaluation, and you have to carry it through depending on how easy it's going to be to get favors and how valuable they are. And so it really does add this component where you have to make this informed decision in order to be able to win the game. Like that's pretty good. The one criticism that I will give of Allies that'll knock it down a little bit, is that a lot of these things, like, that they'll only cost 1, like Cave Dwellers. You may spend a favor to discard a card, then draw a card. There's a trick there with your starting favor where you're going to want to do this basically every time. And there's a lot of these things where you just kind of do like that initial little shuffle manipulation, and honestly, a lot of the time that's going to be their biggest impact in the game. And for that, it's kind of disappointing to see this liaison not really be the big thing. It's really just this starting favor that's going to do something for you. Desert Guides, maybe you're going to see the thing you bought turn 1, turn 3, turn 2, because you get to discard that hand. And for that reason, although I really love the concept and would otherwise give it an A, I'm dropping it to an A-. Alright, rotating split piles. Split piles, these are the 6 of them. This is all of them. There's augurs, there's clashes, there's forts, there's odysseys, there's townsfolk, there's wizards. The deal with these split piles is that the top card of each of them, first of all, there's like 4 of each. You stack them up, so there's 4 Herb Gatherers, 4 Acolytes, 4 Sorcerers, 4 Sibyls. The top card of each of them, for example, Tent, says you may rotate the forts, and what that means is you're going to basically discard cards from the top of this pile until you get to a new card, and you'll put the discarded cards on the bottom. So like all the tents will go to the bottom after you rotate with the tent, then all the garrisons if you rotate again, etc. And so, again, this is going to give you a lot of decision. You are going to need to get that top card if you want to get the ones lower down, or maybe depend on your opponent to get it. And you're going to want to control, like if you want to get one of these cards first, like, gosh, I want to attack with Archer first. I'm going to have to get Battle Plan. I'm going to have to rotate that pile to get it. So, these are adding quite a bit of decision, which is always a good thing. Like, in Dominion, you get to express your skill through good decision making, and the decision making that these are is like, I have to balance out, like, am I going to get this? I really want this. Is my opponent going to be able to get it? Is my opponent going to get more out of it? These kinds of questions are really what, is the crux of skill in Dominion. And so these rotating split piles, although, there's a lot of text to read on them, it's totally worth it, because you get to really flex out your skill with them. And so I'm giving these an A. Alright, lastly, choices are back. This is kind of a different kind of choice than we usually see in Intrigue. You see these cards, a lot of them are going to say choose one, and then it's going to have some other stuff, and there's going to be a option where it's +1 card, +1 action, or like Innkeeper. Maybe you're going to look lower into your deck, it's a sifter. Maybe you're not even going to sift. Maybe you're going to look 3 cards in. Maybe you're going to put 5 cards in, but if you go further down, you have to discard more. It's these kind of decisions. Similarly, Broker, like, am I going to be conservative and take the coins, or do I want to see more cards? Capital City, am I going to look further into my deck? Specialist, do I want to play this twice or gain a copy? These are the kinds of decisions where, you're really thinking like, am I going to do more if I look further into my deck, or do I want to play it safe and like get my thing right now? And this is a really interesting decision to make a lot of the time, and so this is a really compelling mechanic, just because it's making you balance out this risk versus reward. The one criticism that I have is that a lot of these decisions are the same. Like, you do something cool, or you get +1 card, +1 action a lot. And although, it's a really interesting decision, it's kind of a repetitive one. And so, although I would be like really in favor here, I do have to knock it down a peg just because it's the same decision a lot. So, put it down to an A-. Alright, looking at some of our components, we always go attacks, draw, and what we call payload. So attacks, Allies has quite a few attacks. 4 of these are somewhere in the split pile. In fact, these 2 are both in clashes. But you have your junkers, you have your discard attacks, you have a trashing attack, and then you have some kind of odd attacks. You have Highwayman, which is going to affect a treasure. Usually it'll be effectively -1 coin if you keep a copper around, or maybe more if you don't have a copper to give to Highwayman. And then you have Warlord, which is going to really mess up some of these big action playing decks, because you can't play more than 2 of the same copy, or 2 of the same named action. In addition, like some of these discard attack here in Skirmisher, and normally discard attacks are pretty oppressive, but Skirmisher makes it so there's a condition. Really, all of these are interesting facts, like conditional cursor, conditional whatever. And so, rather than just be these big hit you over the top oppressive attacks, these are actually a really nice set. So I give them an A. Alright, draw pieces. I always say we go for quantity over quality on here, and you can see there's a lot of quantity here. Clearly some of these shouldn't count as their own, but, because they're in the same split pile, but, we can count through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with townsfolk, 8, 9, 10 clashes, 11 odysseys, 12 augurs, 13, 14, 15, 16, maybe even call it 17. I mean, there's 31 cards, and we have like 16 to 17 draw cards in there. Like, this is good. You like to see it be around half. It means if you have a game with a lot of allies cards, there's probably going to be a way to draw on it. And so, that gets you an A there. Alright, payload. these are the cool things you can do with your deck. There's some remodelers. Those are okay. There's some things that give you coins. Usually I don't tend to include attacks in here, but in this case I'm including Barbarian because the deal with Barbarian is if you can play a lot of Barbarians, that is essentially a win condition. So, it goes in the cool things you can do in your deck. There's a couple of these allies, Island Folk taking extra turns is a really good thing to be doing. Bankers will slowly accumulate coins. The one thing that allies is missing is it's missing like a strong gaining. Like you don't see any gold gaining here. The only gaining you see is this card costing up to 4, and so it ends up being a little bit slow in that respect. There's just not a whole lot of way to do things like explosively, and so although some of these are pretty cool, you can't really do amazing stuff in it. So I'm going to limit this down to a C just because it's really not there. Alright, looking at some of our extremes, starting with high-end strength. These are the cards that are usually considered the strongest in allies. We have these clashes. This is specifically because of Warlord. Warlord is a really, oppressive attack to the very best decks that you can build. But it doesn't make games bad. It just means that you're limited in those games. Capital City, it's really just a village. It's a good drawing village, but ultimately is a village and Sentinel a trasher. So, Allies is kind of a flop on the high-end strength end. You don't really have anything that's really out there. This is an amazing card that's fun to play with. Although these don't lead to games that all look the same, well, maybe clashes look about the same because of Warlord. It feels like they revolve around this a lot. There's nothing that's really that amazing to go out here. And so, I'm gonna knock this down, probably give it about a C+. Alright, low-end strength. I'm gonna say this is where Allies really shines as an expansion. What are our worst things? It's Merchant Camp, it's Galleria. These are cards that you are going to buy all the time. Merchant Camp's a village. That's something that you're going to want at even top decks for yourself, so maybe you'll even want one for consistency. Galleria is a +3 coins. You're gonna want +3 coins a lot. It also is a plus buy. That's something that you're going to do. The one criticism on low-end strength is Mountain Folk. Is one of the allies. It's an expensive ally. It's one that you have to pay 5 favors for, and it is not one that you usually want to go after. So, the problem with having an ally that is something that you don't want to go after is that the liaison that's sitting with it is something that is not really compelling to buy. You have Underling, which we'll go back and maybe you remember, is this +1 card, +1 action, +1 favor. Well, if I don't want +1 favor, this thing's useless. And so, we go back to here, and, an ally being there that is really bad, means that you basically have a useless kingdom card. And so, although, this is rare, it's going to be 1 out of 23 times you have an ally in it, the game, it just is not, it's not good to have that there. And so, here, I'm not going to give it an A because, although these things are really good to have as the lowest end of strength, you can have some bad things here, and so we'll give it an A-. Alright, most exciting, it's this Odyssey pile. I'm gonna put it out there. Voyage is a fantastically fun card. Extra turns are always fun, and this one, limits you, and so, you have to figure out, what am I going to do when I only get to play 3 cards from my hand? The thing I always say about this pile is, you get Old Map because Old Map looks pretty cool. You open it, and with this discard a card, it can be in a state. You can effectively get +2 cards, +1 action opening. Let's open Lab, yeah. You have Old Map, you might as well get a Voyage because, you can rotate to it and buy it, and extra turns are a good thing, especially early. Once you have a Voyage, what's a cool thing to do on a Voyage turn? Well, it's play a Sunken Treasure, so you're going to want that because, if you can only play 3 cards from your hand, something that gains an action you don't have a copy of in play looks pretty sweet. And then eventually, because you have Sunken Treasure, you're going to get this Distant Shore card, which can lead to some pretty interesting decisions around, playing this and the estates emptying and whether I want to keep my estates because stuff's emptying or not. And so, I'm going to be gaining these distant shores because maybe I have a copy of everything else in play not on my voyage turn. So this whole pile kind of just, works together and makes it everything great. And for that reason, I'm giving it an A. Most unpleasant, it's probably this Trasher and Sentinel. This has a pretty iffy turn 3, turn 4 thing, where if you see a Sentinel turn 3, you're doing a whole lot better than if you see it turn 4. That said, that's something that is just common throughout Dominion. Like, your shuffles will do what they do. It's not even usually as bad as some of the durations that have this turn 3, turn 4 difference. And so, as unpleasant things go, I don't think you can really complain about Sentinel, so we'll give that an A. Alright, on to our Fluff, theme. There's the allies and liaisons, and that's about as far as the allies theme goes. There is no theme here. I'm gonna be real. It's a D. Artwork. It's okay. There's quite a few, fine pieces. There's nothing that's that offensive, but there's no real standouts either, so we'll give it an A-. And gosh, the vibe in Allies is great. We were going through the other things and we were saying, this is somewhere where you get to really express your skill. And for that, it's an A vibe. Expressing your skill is the big deal in Dominion. And for that reason, we can wait these things out, although there was some, not so nice things about it in the middle. It's a 3.55, which, as it turns out, is going to end up being the best expansion. And so, this is an expansion where you get to really express your skill, show that you are the best Dominion player, and for that reason, should you buy Allies? Yeah, you should absolutely buy Allies. It's the best expansion.